Man, it's probably far down. Let's go to just Nick. Nick's Twitter. I think he tweeted it. Salute Groper. Yeah, Groper General really cooked there. That was crazy.
More liberal than...
I sat down with Nick Fuentes, not just for one episode, but for a 10-part series. This is the first episode. My 10-part interview series with Joel Webbon premieres today. That is crazy. They did a 10-part.
Maybe I'm more liberal than you. I don't know what the penalties would be specifically, but I think certainly the government needs to enforce some level of morality.
Yes.
Within reason. And I think what you're talking
More trad, Matt Walsh.
about when you say the perpetual indulgence, these are deliberately subversive, morally subversive. There's no positive good where that could be defended.
This is just one episode of a 10-part
Who is this, Joe the Boomer?
With perhaps the most...
No, this is not... this is the guy that we've previously referred to as Matt Walsh at home. But he had Nick on based. He had a 10-part series.
Controversial man in America.
He's like a tradcath or something. I don't know.
Namely, Nicholas J. Fuentes.
I don't really know. Honestly, I don't really know. So I don't even mean to be attacking him. That's his look. Just looks like that. Okay. In the same way I'm like PewDiePie or XQC at home or whatever the fuck everyone calls me. You know, he's like Matt Walsh at home. Like, that's all I'm saying. You know?
Now, the whole series will eventually be made...
Oh, he's Protestant. Oh, okay.
...public.
Is there a Tradcath version of this show? Isn't there a version that's like...
Right here, with one new episode dropping each week on Wednesday. And we're not just talking about Nick's childhood experiences or what he did in college back in the day. No, we're focusing our exclusive attention on what Nick believes. What is it that Nick really thinks about race,
women, about cum hunting,
Israel, Jews, masculinity, and even more?
Using a black light on a fucking couch?
That's what this series is all about. It's a one-stop shop to focus on the core tenets of Nick Fuentes' beliefs on the major headline issues of our day. Now, you're going to have to wait a total of 10 weeks for this to slow drip out to the public. However, for those of you who may be interested, you can binge watch all 10 episodes ad-free today by...
Okay. That's a fair way to do this. Releasing them for free every week, but then on your Patreon just being like, but they're all here now. That's fair. That's fair.
Heading over to Patreon.
Dude, I got hot chocolate earlier, and I got it coconut flavored. I'm on my white girl shit. I got coconut flavored hot chocolate earlier.
.com and searching NXR Studios. And now, back to our show. This is the first of a 10-part series.
Milking Nick. Yeah, I should have done that. I should have locked Nick in. I should have made him sign a contract and been like, now let's schedule a 10-part
Jet Set Radio.
What's that game called? The Chain
Groper just
Chain Together
on Kick.
Let's schedule a 10-part Chain Together stream, okay? And then just continually keep like making us lose so we fall all the way down. And just start over and over again. Lock him into we will keep playing regularly until we win, and then like purposely every time we're about to get to like a checkpoint, just jump off. Oh shit.
Nicholas J. Fuentes. Each episode will drop once per week on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central Time. Now, some of you may be wondering, why? Why would you sit down and interview him for over 10 hours?
Why does he talk like that?
One of the answers is because, to our knowledge, so far, no one else has. We didn't...
Okay, why does he sound like that? Like,
didn't want to just do a one sitting where, hey, tell me about your college experience. Tell me about the time that Ben Shapiro blew up your Twitter account. No, we wanted to have a thorough...
It sounds like an AI.
One-stop shop, deep dive on the core tenets of the man's actual beliefs. What does he really believe about faith, about politics, about Israel, about America, foreign affairs, men, women, Jews, Catholic.
Okay, this is insane. Like, this is... Dude, no, I can't be attacking him. This is going to be hard, bro. Holy shit. The LARP is so bad. The LARP is so fucking bad, dude. Holy...
Protestants, the whole 9 yards. Now, why? Why does it matter what he believes? Well, because he's not merely the most controversial man in America. For pretty much everyone under the age of 45, he's arguably also the most significant man in America. And whether you love him or hate him, your neighbors are listening.
No, but W, okay. W, because at least he's a trad LARPer that actually likes Nick. Okay, so finally we have a real trad LARPer that actually likes Nick, and he's like doing speech therapy to like try to... I don't even know. I don't even know what that accent is. I don't know why he's talking that way. I mean, it's fine. It's like uncanny. And the having booze everywhere in the background and the leathered sofa, and he's probably gonna pull out like a cigar halfway through. Probably gonna pull out a big fat black cigar and put it down his throat. But that's cool.
As to say.
What accent? He's talking like this. He's talking like, now I've sat down with Nicholas J. Fuentes today to find out what he actually really does believe. And I want to get down to the bottom of what his core ideas really are. And so I've decided that not just one episode will do, but a 10-part series spread out.
And so why not actually get to the bottom of it? Why not ask the questions?
Where's the mini fridge with the black rifle coffee?
What do you think?
Okay, that's true.
About every single major headline issue that matters in our day. Now, there's another reason that we chose to do this series with Nick. See, if you had a time machine and you could go back to 2012, 2013, 14, knowing what you know today about Donald Trump, and you could sit down with him back then and interview him for over 10 hours, would you do it? Even people who hate Trump, if they were honest, would say yes. Why? Because you see the man's
It's good to see Matt Walsh being friendly to Nick. Yeah, true.
And maybe I am. Maybe as time goes on, there'll be egg on my face. But I think that the energy surrounding Nick Fuentes in 2025 and now 2026 is eerily similar to the energy that was surrounding Trump back in 2015.
Right.
I'll go ahead and publicly say it. I have nothing to lose. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm right. I believe Nick Fuentes will one day either
I'm drawing parallels here between
a quintessential kingmaker with such profound influence that whoever is president won't be able to get there without Nick's support. And if a man really is that significant, if he actually has that kind of momentum, then it behooves us to hear him out. For better or for worse, what does he actually think? And so, in this one-stop shop 10-part series, we get to the bottom of the core tenets of his convictions and beliefs about everything right now in America that seems to matter most. Tune in now.
Radical Christian nationalist pastor, Joel Webbon.
Joel Webbon? I'm going to talk about Joel Webbon.
Joel Webbon has been excellent.
Dude, W. Joel Webbon. Dude, W. Joel Webbon. Finally a beard that outmatches Beardson's. Thank you, Jazzy Kuiper. Welcome back. Let's go. Thank you so much.
Nicholas J. Is it J?
Yes.
Fuentes. In the flesh. Nice to meet you.
Yes. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. So this is actually going to be a 10-part series. It's not just a one and done. You were gracious with your time, came out, spent about half a week with us last fall by the time that this is airing. And we want to do a lot of good with this series. And so it's going to be 10 parts and we are reserving nothing. I gave you my word that, nothing's going to be behind the paywall or, keep it in the vault. You'll never get to see it unless you give us your money. We are going to have kind of some of the raw footage available for ad-free and early access. So if anybody is like, they're watching this, it's the first episode.
Nicholas BBL Fuentes.
It's 10 parts. I want to get it all, right now. So if you want to binge watch it, you can, and we're going to make that available. You hear about that a little bit later.
Sneak dissing, bruh.
But if you're like, nah, I don't want to have to pay for it, it will all come out, but we're going to do one at a time.
Oh, I like that side of the head angle.
So one episode per week.
Delicious.
For 10 weeks. So this is probably going to go all the way through halfway into March. So I'm excited. So first thing that I thought that we should talk about is America First and Christian nationalism. You're a Christian nationalist, right?
Yes.
Okay, Martin.
Okay, so I want to ask you about America First, but first, let's start with the Christian nationalist piece. Obviously, they both run into each other. When you say you're a Christian nationalist, what do you mean by that?
I believe that America's a Christian nation.
Yeah.
Which is sort of in the name. Christian nationalist, America's a Christian nation. And I think that Christianity is an essential part of America's identity. Fundamentally, I think that America should have a Christian government, is what I think that ultimately comes down to. Amen. And if you want to get very specific and detailed about it, I believe that only Christians should be legislators, judges, and in the executive branch.
Amen.
I think that if Christianity is right and true, if God has a law, then our government should follow that. I think that's historically our identity. I think that's the truth. I think that's consistent with what our civilization is. So I would start there. I think that we should have
whiskey bottles behind him. Yeah, very cool.
What do you think? I agree wholeheartedly. Lex Rex, the law is above the king. I'm actually
Lex Rex.
With the king. I think just because of
dude, okay.
America's founding.
Sorry.
In history, I think we could functionally get there, but I don't think we would ever call someone a king. It's just not in our blood as Americans. There's an aversion to that. But even if there was a monarch, the law of God is still ultimately the ruler. Lex Rex, the law above the king. In terms of the law of God, we have all these statutes throughout the Old Testament, and then many of them restated and some new ones in the New Testament. But the summary of the law would be the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, Exodus chapter 20. That really summarizes the law. And then Jesus summarizes it even further when he says, the first and greatest commandment is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, strength. And the second is like it, that we should love our neighbor as.
Okay, dude, what? Everyone's just on some goofy stuff today. Okay, I don't even mean to call Kai out, but dude, Kai had the worst analogy I've ever heard in my life. Don't even let him hear this. But this was insane. This might have been the worst analogy I've ever heard in my life. I saw this earlier, and I was like while he was saying it, I was like, where is he going with this? Dude, listen to this. Dude. I love Kai, and we all love Kai, but dude, this is...
People who say, I think we're spending too much time on Israel. Okay, the reason we're spending time on it is because it has to be addressed. There was this perfect analogy. This is like the child that was told by their father to cut down a tree. And they took their axe, swung it, and they buried it. And the head of the axe, it came dislodged from the wood handle and planted itself in the trunk of the tree. The young man, unfortunately, was not able to tear the metal part of this axe out from the trunk of the tree. He tried and then left. His father didn't press him on it. And yet, as time went on, that tree continued to grow. And eventually, it even consumed the hatchet. But
dude, Veda, you know who's canceling Kai? You know whose side you're on? Get this. Wurzel roots. Now, how do you feel? Now Veda's really stuck between a talking
the
all
axe
place.
remained planted. And then one day, years down the road, there was a windstorm, and these gusts of wind were toppling trees. Most of the trees in this orchard, they remained upright. But that one tree was toppled, and it crashed onto a car where a couple members of that child, now a man's family, were sitting in. And as the man walked outside after hearing the crash, he glanced over to the tree to the point where
just
it was broken.
Genuinely though, what is this
he
analogy?
saw the head of the axe. That is what will happen to our conservative movement if we allow these issues to go unaddressed. I have a lot of people
Anyway, I'm not even trying to A-log because he did good on all the other shows. That was just insane. That one was just like, I just don't even know. I just don't even know. That analogy was just like, didn't really make sense. Like perfect analogy, like an analogy should be something that like is relatable or like happens and is like a lot simpler. But like getting the head of an axe stuck in a tree and then leaving it there, and then the tree grows, and then later on in a storm the tree blows over, and then it kills the guy who didn't take the axe head out of the tree's family in a car or something. Like, how is that an analogy for us in Israel? How is that even an analogy for us in Israel? That's just
all of the law, he continues, and the prophets they rest on these two commandments. So the way I see it is, Jesus is love God, love neighbor. That being a summary.
But that was funny. So it was cool.
Of a summary being the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments, there's 10 of them, but really they fall into two tables. You have the first 4 of the 10 Commandments. Now I know Catholics and Protestants, we count them a little differently, but in the Protestant case, it's the first 4 of the 10 Commandments are in regards to how to love God. Have no other gods before me. Don't make graven images. Don't take the Lord's name in vain, and remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. The next 6 is love for neighbor. And it's honor your father and mother.
I am the axe.
Don't commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't bear false witness, and don't covet. And so Jesus says, love God, love neighbor. The 10 Commandments, this is how to love God with a little bit more specificity, and how to love neighbor. And then everything else, all these Old Testament civil statutes, they ultimately fall underneath one of the 10 Commandments, whether it's a parapet around the border of your roof, right? You have to have like this.
I am the tree,
railing.
they have to cut me down.
Well, they don't have HVAC during the summer months. They're sleeping on the roof, and you're loving your neighbor by making sure he doesn't fall off in the middle of the night and break his leg. So even that you can root to the commandment, the 6th commandment, thou shalt not murder. Stated in the positive sense would be, thou shalt protect and esteem the safety and dignity of human life. So we can look at that even in our Western context and say, well, that's silly. That's primitive. You Bible thumpers. Well, we have laws about speed limits and seatbelts and we're just not up on the roof anymore. But find me a 2-story balcony in anybody's home that doesn't have a railing, right? And if it didn't, eventually there'd probably be a legal issue. So it's not that different. We're like that still to this day. So if we're going to have laws, I'd like to see them modeled off of the scripture. So my question, I guess, to you though, is this is where I see a lot of Christians start to say, well, not that. The first table of the law. A lot of guys
this
will
is
say,
like
we need laws.
if Dave Rubin was role playing as a trad guy,
protecting his safety, these kinds of things. But I don't want blasphemy laws. Like, what about, the first of the 10 Commandments, we can't have that, all 10 Commandments on a courthouse. It's like, well, I have bad news for you. We can't do that because freedom of religion, which I look at freedom of religion and I, at some level as a Christian, I'm like, so freedom for idolatry? Like, I mean, what is that other than like, hey, in America, we protect the freedom for people to worship sand demons and erect 90-foot tall statues to some false god. I think that we've always had blasphemy laws. It's not whether but which. And I'm not saying some kid who says JC should go to jail, but like the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence gyrating in front of a man dressed up like Christ on a cross in a public parade. Believe it or not, jail. Right away, jail. Right. Would you agree with that?
I would. I think I would agree with that. And
This
I
is
think
good.
that it's interesting how
No, I don't think so.
people in this country have such an aversion to anything that looks or sounds like that. But
Nick listening to 20-minute super chat in an ASMR voice,
for example.
This is insane.
Like the United Arab Emirates. People go to Dubai, and this is a hotspot for the world's rich, for entertainers.
Dude,
and
check
a
out.
lot of people go there.
Pause, dude. Check out what I'm eating. Dude, a superfood. Dude, I got they're saying this is a superfood. 2018 just called me and they're saying this is a fucking superfood. They're saying this is a quote unquote ultra food. Huh?
are pretty secular and pretty liberal. But everybody knows that when you go to Dubai or Riyadh, for that matter, or any of these Gulf countries, which are very wealthy, very modern, technologically sophisticated, and cosmopolitan even, everybody knows the rules. And the rules are you don't disrespect Islam. And the whole country abides by that. And there's laws governing
the
public
seed oil, went
displays of
straight into the
affection,
seeds,
modesty, all kinds of things. And nobody seems to have a problem because they know they don't mess around there. They take their religion seriously. And when you land at that airport, everybody knows you got to play by those rules. And people seem to be okay with that. But for some reason in America, even the insinuation that you might have something like that for Christ, for the church, people say it's the handmaiden's tale. It's Gilead. This is regressive. What is this? The Middle Ages? And maybe I'm more liberal than you. I don't know what the penalties would be specifically.
Gadfly just
but I think
resubscribed.
certainly the government needs to enforce some level of morality.
Yes.
Within reason. And I think what you're talking about when you say the perpetual indulgence, these are deliberately subversive, morally subversive. There's no positive good where that could be defended. I don't know that I would outlaw, let's say, heresy, because there should be room for religious debate. It's like there always has been in the church or at different councils and things like that. But something that is deliberately and intentional.
Hold that thought. What is it in pumpkin seeds that makes it a superfood? Let's find out real quick, shall we? Pumpkin seeds earn the superfood label because they pack a lot of nutrients with real biological impact. They're high in magnesium. Oh, I'm gonna shoot fucking loads. Yo, wait. Yo, we're back. Healthy fats, omega-6, high quality plant protein, antioxidants, phytosterols, iron, fiber, blood sugar control. Used for this due to zinc, prostate, urinary health. What's good for my gut? Wait. Explain it so my friend Beardson. Explain this in a way my friend Beardly, who loves Halo 3, could understand. Halo 3, GameStop midnight release, and 2007 could understand. All right, explain it like it's 2007. It's midnight. Your friend Beardson is standing outside GameStop. Think of pumpkin seeds like a fully kitted Spartan loadout in one tiny item. Why you eat a handful and it's doing way more than it looks like. Why they're busted in a good way. Magnesium equals stamina bar. Keeps your muscles from cramping. Helps you sleep and recover. Basically less controller down. I'm cooked energy. Zinc equals shields. Keep your immune system strong. Imagine me like yelling this in his ear, like outside the GameStop. Helps with the hormones and healing. You're harder to take down. Healthy fats equal power supply. Long-lasting energy. Keeps your heart running smooth. Not a sugar rush. More like a steady battery. Protein equals armor piece. Helps rebuild muscle. Keeps you full longer. You don't crash right after. Antioxidants equal damage resistance. Reduce wear and tear on your body. Less long-term degradation. A couple of spoonfuls is like picking up an overshield before the fight. If you want, I can explain raw versus roasted, like comparing default armor versus recon. Yeah.
Meant to
load
blaspheme
recharge
and offend God and the morals of any decent person. I don't think there's any basis for that. And so, of course, in America at the same time, we have a tradition of freedom of speech, but maybe we need to articulate what the basis of free speech is. Why is free speech good? If free speech is good insofar as we could debate about what form of government is.
Yo, pause. Whose emo is this? Whose emo is just like a cum shot? Yo, that real Wurz root jork? Wurzel root? Holy shit.
best or what kind of society we should have. I'm willing to be more liberal when it comes to things like that. But filth, which it, like pornography, for example,
Right.
what action? That's not political speech.
No,
And I don't think there's anything positively good. I don't even actually consider it speech.
it's not religious speech either.
No.
Although I have seen some Jews say that both abortion and pornography are Jewish religious sacraments.
Notice
Which is
that.
interesting.
Very interesting.
So I tend to agree. I don't, like I said, I'm probably not as conservative when it comes to religious law.
Dude, how'd they get Nick to agree to this? They said, let's do 10 hours. They said, hey, you want to just record for 10 hours? I just want to do a 10-hour interview in my LARP studio. Like,
As maybe you are, or some Protestants, or even for that matter, some traditional Catholics who say there
Secular
should be no freedom
religion
of religion,
moment.
which is, I think, what you're saying.
They didn't
but I
tell him.
certainly think that
they just sat him down
there
and
should
kept
be some
going.
basic standards like they have in
Right.
Russia or any other country.
So from my position, I think that it's just there are degrees. So so like Tom Cruise Minority Report, like I don't want, where we're predicting crimes and even policing. When I think of Old Testament Israel, the actual Jews, I think
Dude, Beardson should get in
there's
drama
not
with
really a
this guy.
police system, right? So there's punitive justice, but they're not going around, with back to the parapet, the border on the roof. There's at least no recording in the Old Testament of the parapet committee, that would go house to house, annually to measure and make sure that they hit the metrics. It's like you need to have a parapet, and if you don't, then you get arrested. No. If you don't, then you're liable if something happens, right? So if you don't have a border on your roof and nobody ever gets hurt, no harm, no foul. If somebody does get hurt and you had a border, then it's on them. If they do get hurt and you didn't have a border, now you're liable. The same with like a bull, that's accustomed to gore. Well, you could have a violent bull, but if nobody gets gored, you're okay. But if they do, and you've already, you've known, and that can be proven in a court that you knew that this was a dangerous animal, and it hurt someone, then it's not just that the animal, the bull is stoned, according to the Old Testament, and so is the owner. Personally, the general equity of that principle, I'll get some flack for this, but I'd apply it to pit bulls. You can have a pit bull, but that dog is genetically bred in such a way that it is extremely dangerous, especially to children.
Wait,
And
pit
so
bulls
you
are
can own a
what?
pit bull. In America, I'd say that you can own a tiger if you want. But if you own a golden retriever,
What's wrong
and
with-
it has a really bad day and does something
What?
tragic, the golden retriever is put to death, and you're probably going to have to go to court and those kinds of things. But I don't think
like
you
their
get locked in
socks.
jail. But you have a pit bull that has that reputation.
What's on his?
And the pit bull kills, 2 little 5-year-old girls. The pit bull gets put down, and so do you. That would
Mr.
be my position. So I
Worldwide.
say
Yeah,
all
why
that
you want to put
say,
pit bull
one,
down,
there are
bro?
degrees, but two, also
bull
just the system
mentioned.
itself. It's less of a
This
policing.
chat is not
So there's
real.
actually a lot
The
of
bull
freedom. So people
mentioned.
are like, well, I don't want the government, to tell me what to do in my bedroom. Well, the government currently tells you how to build your bedroom, right? The studs have to be this many inches between. We police everything. And it's also costly. Like when you think of just how much, management is required, how many taxes we're spending for people to tell us every single thing to do. But a system that's punitive and retributive, rather than, constantly trying to predict and stop crimes before they even occur. And then in terms of the
studs.
degrees, the last thing I would say
Studs
is,
named.
we're not talking about the Muslim police that go into private homes and are rounding people up. So a lot of this for me, when it comes to the first table
Pit
of
bull
law,
is white. That's true.
and things like idolatry and false religions, the major factor there would be there's a difference between sins and crimes. And I think you have to have that category, that distinction. There's plenty of sin. I have sin. But the state has no business in punishing sin. That belongs to the church, whether it's confession or whether it's excommunication or barred from the sacraments or whatever it may be. For a time, sin is dealt with by ultimately God and through the avenue of the church. Crimes are dealt with by the state. And there are some sins that, biblically speaking,
Dude, this is so
are not
snoozer.
crimes. It
Holy
is a sin,
shit.
but it's not a crime. So I would say Muslims worshiping in their
It's got to be the
homes,
worst collab.
is not a crime. Muslims erecting a
It's got to be the most
statue outside of
boring
Houston,
collab of all
I think
time.
that's a crime, and I think people involved with
This is
that
really
should
fun.
have some kind of penalty,
This
whether
is
it's a fine,
fucking
this, that, or the
awesome,
other,
man.
and the statue should be ground to dust. We don't do that here. This is
Dude, do
America.
you think
We're a
that the
Christian
state
nation.
should
Say
arrest
Christ
them,
is
or
Lord.
should the church arrest them?
That would be my view. Would you? So now, giving it a little bit more specificity, what do you think about that?
I like that. I like that approach, because I think when people hear moral law, they hear moral police.
That's what they hear. Yeah.
Right. And what they think about is that you're going to have inquisitors kicking down the door if somebody's watching an R-rated movie,
Right.
or something like that, which I think anybody would be opposed to, and rightly so. I believe in liberty.
Right.
And I think that part of that comes with, I also like the distinction of crime and sin. People do have the liberty to sin, and that's why we have the sacraments, because we're going to
re-added
sin.
the big fat
And we don't
jughead
want to
sticker.
sin, and we try not to, but it's not a crime to do that, and we're supposed to be given a chance to repent and to spiritually grow. So I
Yeah,
do
you guys-
like that distinction. And
you
I
guys
don't know
see-
that I would necessarily agree with the death penalty in many or even most cases. I tend to be anti-death penalty in almost all, except for terrorists or.
What about murder?
It depends on the type of murder.
I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, I think even murderers
Really?
should be spared. Yeah,
Really? Why?
because I think they should be
So
given a chance.
you really like the current pope then, huh? 'Cause
well,
he just said that.
yeah, I tend to think that the
Oh,
death penalty is no
drama.
longer totally necessary.
Mama?
I think in the old days, you literally needed to kill these people because you really couldn't accommodate them in prison forever. But now I think that society can accommodate that, and I think that only the most heinous crimes
Only
should
Jews.
be punished by death. I think everybody else
Sorry.
it should be given
Sorry,
the room
sorry.
one.
I'm just kidding.
I do really worry about the killing of innocent people.
I just have
that
to
are
make it
falsely
even
convicted.
worse than it already
That's a huge
is.
part of it. But also, I think that people should be given a chance to repent. And I don't think those are necessarily our lives to take, even for the government. So I tend to be more, and maybe that's because I'm a political dissident, so I'm a little biased.
Yeah.
I tend to get anxious when I think about the government having license to freely kill people, you know.
Yeah, that's going to be me.
They do it anyway,
Yeah,
I suppose,
right, yeah.
extrajudicially all the time. But no, I tend to be more against the death penalty than for it.
At the foot of Mount Sinai, a nation met its God in
shit.
thunder and fire.
Oh,
From that covenant flowed the faith of Abraham, Moses, and the prophets, fulfilled, not replaced, in Christ.
whoa.
But somewhere between the martyrs and the modern West, the truth was
Now
blurred.
this is exciting.
Politicians and pastors began speaking
Jews
of a
ruined it.
Judeo-Christian civilization.
But then Jews came and ruined it.
Phrase born not of Sinai, but in Washington, tracing its roots not to Moses, but to the Pharisees.
Oh shit.
The hyphenated heresy challenges the myth of the hyphen, tracing how it reshaped Christian identity, redefined the church's witness, and bound modern faith to political Zionism.
They're
Pick up your
Khazarians.
copy today on Amazon.com.
Dude, I gotta read that. Oh shit.
Okay, so with the death penalty, I have to go on record saying, in the case of murder, I think that the death penalty is not only permissible, but biblically speaking, I think that it's mandated.
Holy based.
And I root that not just in the Decalogue, but the Noahic covenant. And if any man takes another man's life, he forfeits his own. So, but as it pertains to what we were talking about just right before that, so sins versus crimes, not policing, that made you feel
Glad that's
like,
on record.
okay, I
Yeah,
can
that was
see
important.
In terms of now, like
was
degrees
worried.
of punishment and the death penalty being
What does Joe
the
Webbon
highest
think about
capital
the death
punishment.
penalty?
The way that I read the Old Testament, because in the Old Testament, it's not just murder, right? In Genesis 9, Noahic covenant, that's there. But then you start getting to Leviticus and, Numbers. And it's like, if you carry, a bundle of sticks on the Sabbath, death, an unruly son who's disrespectful or strikes his father, in rebellion, death. I'll admit, as a Christian pastor, I've read the Bible once or twice, and Yeah, I mean, the death penalty is pretty, God's pretty generous with the death penalty in the Old Testament.
With that.
Pretty liberal with that. And one thing that really helped me, I remember reading one theologian, and his name is Rushduni.
I don't understand why so many Protestants can't live outside the Old Testament. It seems like he's the anti-Judeo-Christian in that he just does the opposite of what they do instead of something else new. Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is up with that. Because that is true. I mean, I wasn't even listening, but are his sources even from the New Testament about, like, that's totally true. All the commandments and stuff were for the Bronze Age, which, like, how you would rule if you were in Africa or something.
And he talked about, like, so think of it like this: the state of Texas. Like, you'll see, don't mess with Texas, which sadly I can tell you,
don't mess with Texas, brother.
Mess with Texas. Texas is pretty limp-wristed, sadly. But don't mess with Texas. Don't litter. And you'll see the signs, and it's like littering can be penalized up to, and so it's like the implication is there's a scale, and so it's like up to $5,000 fine or 2 years in prison. But I personally, I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody who's currently doing hard time, for throwing away a candy wrapper out of the car window. But I think the reason it's there is because even though it seems silly, like nobody would do that. I mean, there are some actually retarded people in the world who might. I think of the repeat offender, so it's like, it's one thing if it's like, you throw a candy wrapper out. But like, what if you've been pulled over, like 47 times this year for littering? And then you got bigger and bigger to where you're like, you're burning all of your trash and rubber tires in the backyard to own the libs, meanwhile you're literally destroying the earth. And then, and it's just more and more. Well, eventually it's like, yeah, I think you actually should go to prison. Mm-hmm. Even then, I wouldn't say the death penalty. But when I look at all these Old Testament laws outside of murder,
dude, I'm gonna fall asleep, and I'm on fucking Adderall right now. This is so boring.
In those cases where it's not murder, you're not taking a life. I think the death penalty is often cited, but I think it's cited kind of like the litter sign in Texas. I think it's cited as a maximum penalty, and would be reserved. Like, as I've studied, if a son strikes his father in rebellion, he's put to death. I've read like a bunch of historians and different guys. There's actually not one case in all of Old Testament Israel's history of that ever being carried out. So it's like, here's this law, and I don't think it's just that it wasn't enforced. I think they knew, right? We have what's in Scripture rated. We don't have all the side conversations and things like that. I think they knew, like, this is not just like a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum, right? This is. And even next to it says, or if he is a drunkard. It's not talking about a little kid. It's talking about a grown man with his elderly parents publicly shaming mom and dad with just debauchery and rebellion. And likely, I think we're meant to assume, repeat offender. He's been brought, before the elders in Israel and told he needs to get in line. And there's zero restraint. And it's not just a personal insult, like slap one cheek, turn the other, but he's violent, he's dangerous, he's a liability, he's criminal. And I think, that to the nth degree.
Dude, if we're talking about Old Testament, why not just Cain and Abel?
Although they never had to enforce it, but could theoretically go all the way up to death. That helps me, like when I think of homosexuals, for instance. It's like, Joel, so do you think all homosexuals should be stoned? And it's like, well, bullets are little stones, like that. Like, I don't think we have to pick up. But no, I'm being facetious. No, I don't. But I think that I think it's a sin, and I think that it can become a crime. So it's one thing if it's. I
like Nick having to force laugh there. Oh, ha ha ha.
That's how the whole slippery slope happened. They're like, oh, we just want the same rights as you, but. Yeah, but then you gave them an inch, and now
we're not even halfway through. Oh my!
Kids in the public library, sit in my lap as I'm dressed up as a drag queen, and we're gonna put porn in all of your books, and we're gonna
me.
Yeah, so I think that, like, or in New York, a gay pride parade with grown men with their genitalia hanging out in front of children on the side, like, okay, now we're talking about a crime,
right?
And even then, I'm not saying immediately you have
stop talking.
A crime, some kind of penalty.
We'll lock them into a fucking 10-hour super chat segment.
And do it again, right? And do it again. What do you do if it's like the 10th year anniversary? They've been doing it for a decade running. Every single time you find them or you did it, like, eventually there has to be a harsher penalty. So that's even that. I know a lot of our listeners would be like, that's hardcore, but like, I think it helps, honestly, because a lot of people will point to the Old Testament, God's punishment. They'll say he's severe, he's too harsh. I like fleshing this out, if nothing else, just to defend the character of God. That like God actually isn't harsh. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was thinking. And there are conceivable, even in our modern society, there are conceivable situations. And our mind immediately goes again to the 5-year-old kid who said, "Dad, I'm mad at you." That's not what the Old Testament was talking about. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's very helpful because I think there is, rightly so maybe, I think there is such an aversion to that in the public consciousness, the idea of an execution.
Dude, what's this?
Doing gay porn. Let's go.
Woo! Based.
Or swinging an axe because of, and you're Protestant because someone said a swear word. Like that's the kind of thing that people think.
Right.
And I can't help it, me being from a very liberal city like Chicago and even growing up in a suburb that was pretty liberal and permissive. I think, and as an American, there's just sort of a natural aversion to that.
Yeah, there is.
And to kind of an extremely punitive justice system. And I have to tell you, as a Christian, I don't come away from the gospel thinking that the state should be liberal with murder, should be liberal, let's say, with the death penalty.
Yeah.
I, with that being said, believe that people should be put in prison. There should be a lot more people in prison. And I've said before on my show, I think the prisons should be made more humane because then we could put more people there for longer. The reason that we don't like prison a lot is because the prison is like, you can die in prison. You get raped in prison.
Right.
It's inhumane in some ways, but I think that we should make them maybe more modern and nicer so we feel comfortable sending people there so that they can be rehabilitated. I do believe that we should have a society that's forgiving, but I also agree that what you're describing, I don't think anybody has a problem with in principle, which is that people that cannot get along in society should be removed from society, whether that's put in a box forever or whether they get the death penalty
Or banishment.
or ostracism, banishment, exile, anything like that. And it is helpful to think of the worst case scenario because I think you strike me as a warm-hearted person. I'm a warm-hearted person. I don't think that society should be looking to inflict punishment on people. However, evil exists. And it is instructive to think of the worst case examples. Like as a Catholic, I think of Satanists who will go and steal one of the blessed hosts. They'll go and steal the bread during the Mass and use it in a black Mass or to desecrate it. And someone who is doing that, I think, should get the death penalty.
Sorry, dude, my groceries got delivered. I had to grab an Uncrustable.
So,
dude, did I miss anything awesome?
Different point.
I can understand it.
Did I miss the good part?
That, although we have different views on the sacraments.
Did it get good?
Because that's not the Satanist physically hurting any person, neighbor, but that's actually a desecration of God, according to the Catholic view. So that would be a first table.
Oh, they're fighting.
Love the Lord.
Right.
Oh, shit.
And I appreciate that because even with among
Nick was
Protestants,
talking, he was
like,
pog.
I've gotten a lot of pushback. A lot of Protestants who are like devout in love the Lord and want to see America be a Christian nation. There's just something in their American
prison
DNA,
rape discussion.
When I would argue modern American, because America wasn't actually always this way. America had, we had blue laws, Sabbath laws. We had blasphemy laws, right? So it's not even just once upon a time in Israel. No, it's like it's been done before. It's been done recently, and it's been done here.
Right.
It actually is American.
Dude.
It actually is. Hasn't been for a little.
Dude, in Utah, this isn't even a joke. In Utah, it used to be illegal to dance on Sundays. Because people were like partying and stuff. And you're supposed to rest. Until like 1950 or 60 or something, it was illegal to dance on Sundays. Hey!
For a while, but actually is. But yet, what I'm saying is that a lot of these Protestants.
And dude, where I've said this before, but where we did the ghost hunting, the first ghost hunting stream, the old mill, that was that was turned into like a social club thing underneath it in like the 40s or something, or 50s. I forget when exactly. And the police raided it on Sunday, and we're arresting them on suspicion of literally illegal dancing. Like literally Utah is like a movie, bro.
Who really love God and not questioning that and really want the country to be Christian, they still anything within the first table. So they would differ from you. They'd be like, yeah, murder is capital
OG
punishment.
swatting, lock them up. Yep.
But the example that you gave, like something that's exclusively only a blaspheming the church, blaspheming Christ, they would say, well, yeah, that's really bad, and that should be frowned upon. But the state has no business enforcing any kind of moral law of God within the first table of the law. Love the Lord your God. Don't make any graven images. Don't take his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath. And the fact that you actually have like a case study that would fall in that category is based. I like it.
Good.
So,
well, yeah, because that's something that can never be excused or pardoned with good intent. Nobody would accidentally, that is so intentional and so malicious. Nobody would accidentally conspire to take the Blessed Sacrament and desecrate it in an evil ritual by accident or with good intent, or, I mean, that's just evil.
Yeah, I can see a couple Protestants doing it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Just because they're like, how dare you?
You're extremely anti-Catholic,
yeah,
sure.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so I could understand that. And
Without black people having a sacrament with Kool-Aid and
some
I don't even know what was the
cases, I just think it's also important to preserve, like, let's be honest, and I agree with you, 60 years ago, we had some very intense laws on the books about sodomy, about race mixing, about blasphemy. Pornography was effectively illegal for a long time. There was a case with Larry Flint, which is what made it more permissive. And I think that we've clearly just gone way too far in the opposite direction.
Yes.
I don't want to go back to the Middle Ages. I don't even necessarily want to go back to the 1800s.
No, I mean in the actual video where they were doing that,
just gone so far in the opposite direction where anyone can recognize. You go into the city square, and it's nudity, weed, public intoxication, public displays of affection, and by that I mean in some cases people are having sex openly in public. People are naked protesting in Portland, and this is not a decent society we want to live in. And I agree that once it crosses into scandalizing others' children, it's offending other people, trespassing on the commons, I think that does then become subject to the law.
Yeah.
And I like what you said even about that slippery slope. They talk about the privacy of their own homes. It's sort of paradoxical because they were never arguing for discretion. They were never arguing for let us be private. It was always, and whether it was homosexuals or anything for that matter, they wanted to bring it out into the public and for it to be tolerated, openly acknowledged.
Good point.
And so it's sort of strange because that's the argument people always use is, well, what about privacy? I don't think anyone has a problem with discretion and privacy. They have a problem with what it is now, which is loud and proud, public,
we can speed it
vulgar for the sake of it, transgressive and offensive, provocative for the sake of it. And why would a decent society tolerate that?
And predatory.
Yes.
With children.
Yeah, malevolent.
Yeah, I agree. Last thing that I would do, like, as you know, I would absolutely call myself a Christian nationalist, and I helped, with a group of guys and writing a statement on Christian nationalism a few years back. Last thing that I would do, there's a million things, but big macro picture. So legislation, laws, we've talked about that. I think, one of the not so rare, sadly, founders, L's, is I think they should have more explicitly named the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I actually like the Constitution. I don't think that we can. I'm not hopeful that we can get back to it. That'd be great to just Constitution even harder.
How would we
it's just hasn't been working out for us for quite a while. I don't think we're going to be able to just vote our way out of it. I think
Hour 9 is going to be fire. Dude, it gets so good. Dude, Hour 9, it's so good. Dude, come on. Dude, please hear me out. Hear me out. Hour 9 is when it gets good, though. It's filler. There's a lot of filler, but Hour 9 is where it really goes hard.
bearing, I think something else is going to happen. But I do like the Constitution. I think you have to get back to authorial intent with the First Amendment and those kinds of things. You know, like Congress shall make no religion. So yeah, so Congress at a federal level, no, I don't think.
Yes, Carew, you're going to hell. I'm sorry.
National church, and it's going to be this particular stream. It's going to be
that's like third, fourth wrong.
Presbyterians and all the Catholics and all the Baptists are going to be punished. I think that's un-American.
Our seven's underrated. Yeah,
included in the realm of thought.
They don't talk about that one.
But what was probably not their authorial intent that they weren't thinking about at all. I don't think they could even conceive of like millions of Hindus. You know what I mean?
Right.
Millions of Muslims. When the First Amendment was written, I don't think they were saying we want to make sure that in Minnesota, an entire town could be overrun by Muslims, and they could set up, you know, statues and have prayer sirens and calls to prayer. Like if they knew that was going to happen, I think like the First Amendment would look a little bit different. You know, so when they say freedom of religion and those kinds of things, I think. I've read even some commentators on that, like early commentators. It was freedom in regards to various expressions of worship toward our common Lord. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That Catholics and Protestants wouldn't kill each other. That Baptists and Presbyterians wouldn't try to drown each other. I don't think it was so that millions of Muslims can live here and worship a sand demon.
Right.
I don't think that's what it was. So if we can get back to authorial intent, then I mostly like the Constitution. First 10 amendments are pretty good. Some of the latter ones I'd like to revisit, you know, but last thing though is I do think like a preamble. I would love to see like the Nicene Creed adopted as a preamble to the Constitution.
Dude.
And I like creeds.
Dude.
I like confessions. You know, I like the Westminster. I like the 1689. You know, but I like creedal because it's more encompassing. A creed is precisely specific enough.
Do we need an American creed?
Affirm it, but also intentionally general enough to where the Christians don't turn on each other.
Right.
Like you like the Nicene Creed.
I do.
I like the Nicene Creed. So that seems like a good, you know, like, so like right before we get to the Constitution, let's start with that. Name the Lord Jesus Christ. Then let's have the first 10 amendments and the actual authorial intent. Let's maybe get rid of a few of the latter ones or amend them. And, you know, and then let's actually legislate not a deep police state, but with gradations and using prudence and also compassion and recognizing
he wants
that
to put
the first order of the
blacks
law,
back in chains.
Actually, some of those things are not just sins, but crimes. And then other things are just sins. And the state has no business in it. And my God, we could have our home again. You know, it'd be really nice. So that's, to me, Christian nationalism, America first. Can you talk to us about that?
Yes. You know, I call
Talk to
myself
us
America
about our
first
credo.
because when we talk about who we are, you know, what is our grouping, people tend to say we're conservative or right wing.
Right.
I like credos.
And I always identified as a conservative or libertarian or right wing or something. And
dude, I really like
these are terms that
credos.
increasingly don't really have meaning.
Tell me about
what
that.
does that mean? And people have to ask themselves, what is a conservative? Because now we're being told it's conservative to be a religious pluralist in favor of multiracialism, in favor. It's like, so what actually, people ask, are we even conserving or serious about conserving? And then people get to something like, well, being a conservative is being a liberal. It's being a right liberal, a classical liberal.
Right.
It's like, okay, so is conservatism even a tangible thing? And I look at myself in the context of what has happened in the past 30 years, which is globalization.
I heard you were in.
Oh, hey, Chad the Builder.
Maybe we can do a stream together buying that sword.
Dude, I'm president of the Beards and Beardly fan club, bro. Fuck you.
And the globalization of the government with the supranational institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, the United Nations, these institutions that sit on top of our government, as well as the influence of foreign interests, multinational corporations, foreign intelligence agencies, the globalization of the population with open borders, immigrants pouring in, and this is even to your point
I'm
about the
president
intention
of the
of the Constitution. Was it intended for there to be
FC.
millions of Indians, Chinese, and foreigners here? The answer is no. We're becoming globalized in terms of the demographics and the globalization of the economy through free trade, which is the interdependence of the United States with China, Mexico, Canada, these supply chains which make us dependent on other countries.
Who's gonna tell? I've been waiting for someone to do this too. Who's gonna tell Nick and Joel that we were worshiping the Prime Creator and the stars in 2026? Yeah, we went kind of Masonic at the end of 2025. We're past this. Veda's worshiping like a chicken snake thing with a pot belly that has the keys to heaven or something. Like, we're worshiping the generative force. Big G of Masonry.
And so it's in the context of globalization that I don't feel like a conservative, where they're preoccupied with limiting the size of government or vague appeals to family values, which become more vague and generic all the time. You could say that 20 years ago, to be conservative was to be Christian. Now in 2025, if you ask Turning Point USA, they say it's ethical monotheism. They have to say that to accommodate Jews, Muslims, Hindus.
That's terrible.
Right?
What are you conserving?
It's like arguably 100 years ago, maybe it was Presbyterian or Episcopalian,
right.
like a very American denomination. Then it became like, well, we're one nation under God, Christian God. Now it's like ethical monotheism. I wonder what it'll be like in 100 years.
Beardson
We have a polytheism.
Yeah, wait till Chud finds out Beardson just worships Baal. Beardson just worships the ancient Lord Baal.
It'll just be like they'd be like
The
deists or
ancient
something.
one.
And so anyway, I look at conservatives as basically they're just not speaking the same language anymore. It doesn't seem to have a hard definition. It doesn't seem to have answers for the actual problems affecting real Americans. I said, so my real ideology, which is something I was searching for in 2016 when Trump was elected, when Trump ran in 16, he didn't say I'm the most conservative. He didn't say I'm the most right wing or the most Republican. He said I'm America first.
Right.
He said this is about globalism and nationalism, not liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans. It's about globalists, internationalists, and nationalists, people that want to put the American people first. And in his inaugural, that's where I got the name of my show. And just funny story, when I started my show with Right Side Broadcasting Network, they asked me what I wanted to call the show. And my first
Hold on. Karasu had a British moment. He said, I'm having some Walker's Worcester sauce crisps made with Lee and Perrins. So it is. Let's check these out. Hold up. Let's see these sauce crisps, shall we? Dude, look at their crisps. Dude, do they have the British flag on them? Do they all have the British, the Jack, the whatever it's called? Bloody delicious, that is. Isn't it? Yeah. You having the 70th anniversary version? Or which version? Lee and Perrins. Oh boy. Delicious, huh?
first instinct was the Nicholas J. Fuentes show. And they said, well, that's too long. No one knows who you are. No one knows your name. I was like, okay. They said, so you need something shorter, something different. And I really had no idea. A month later, Trump gave his inaugural. And in the inaugural, he said, a new vision will govern our land. It's going to be only America first.
Yeah.
And I heard that and I said, that's it. Like that. And it's because that really encapsulates who we are. When I say we and like our kind of people and they, the people that are against us, it's those that that have a sense of American identity, that it's about the American people and their history, their heritage, going all the way back even before the founding, before the settlement of the North American continent, where we come from, who we really are, and putting that first, that's the priority, explicitly identifying as Americans. And even, what was the point of the border
I'm
wall?
good off those
Yes, it's to
crisps.
keep foreigners out. But I thought it was bigger than that. It was a tangible representation that said, this is America. That
You
is the
Yanks
rest of the
can't
world.
get 'em
It gave us
because of the
definition in a
tariffs.
physical way. And I said, that's who I am. I'm America first. And that's something
The
that Ben
Union
Shapiro
Jack.
could not claim.
Right.
The Democrats could not claim.
Cheers to that.
You could even say
Oh,
the
I got
capitalist
monsters.
class. And by those, not to sound communist, but the wealthy, the owners, the people that own the multinational corporations, and they live everywhere. You know, they have houses in Europe and Asia and America. They do business everywhere. They could not even call themselves America first. So whether
Because typically you think it's conservative and liberals, you know, and conservative over here, it's free trade, capitalism, you know, like, and so, you know, or like a Ben Shapiro type, you know, you'd be like, oh, he's one of us. And those were kind of the dividing lines. And we're like, how come things just keep getting worse? And like, it was like, it's ping pong, but like both sides are really just two sides of the same coin. And you're right. Trump really, in a lot of ways, said like, the reason we keep losing is because both teams are against you. Both teams. Like that's not the paradigm, liberal conservative. The paradigm is the world or us.
Very delicious,
you know,
huh?
I think you saw that early and hopped on it, and that's kind of
Bit
been
of
your
a
legacy for the last 10
monster.
years.
yes,
I'm a
well,
bit
that's how I
of a
position
white
myself because
monster.
I look at someone like a Charles Koch, let's
Isn't
say,
it?
and say he's not.
Dude, did you guys see the banner today? Did you see the banner? Look. Dude, look. Chad, you fuck with this? Dude, look. Look. Dude, the monster, the white monster quarter zip. Oh shit. Yo, is that tough? And I got look, I got the Chans behind me. Do you see? The Chans are back there. Oh shit. You fucking with it? I fuck with you. I fuck with you. That one was really something. I'm the quarter zips. So everyone wearing a quarter zip, bro. Come on.
America first. If you're in favor of like ultimate deregulation, ultimate neoliberalism, free trade, the rest of it, you're not really on my team, even if you're in favor of capitalism broadly or traditional values or something like that. And the same goes for Shapiro or Soros. It was really just about properly setting people on the right sides of the issue. And so for 10 years, I've been creating this space where I didn't, and what's interesting, which I don't talk about too much anymore, but this was very relevant in 2017, is it seemed that there was this there was no faction or no space for somebody that I would call a true alternative to the right wing. You had the term alt-right, which was extremely popular in 2016. And that label went through a lot of changes. In 2016, to be alt-right meant that you were...
It really is 10 parts? Yeah, no, we're not kidding. I mean, it really is 10 parts. They're serious. Insane. I don't know why.
Weren't an establishment Republican. Because in 2015, right up until Trump announced, you really had Bush Republicanism, Bush conservatism. And that's just what there was. Individual responsibility, small government, free markets. Like, that's what it was to be right. Even the wars to be right wing. Trump comes along and says, I'm a nationalist, not a globalist. And you just get this flood of new ideas. You get the French New Right. You get the perennialists like Evola. You get white nationalists, white identitarians, race realists, Holocaust revisionists, anti-Semites. You get all these other people that were right-wing, like they were anti-left, but they didn't fit that old mold of conservatism. And so people said, this is the alternative right. This is an alternative.
I hope they gave Nick $1 million for this. Yeah, they better.
And after the election, alt-right became something very specific. And it
10 hours of Nick interviewing Joel Webbon.
really meant like anti-American, anti-Christian, because it was a lot of racialists, pure racialists that said it's not about America, it's about...
What if this is part of the gold deal? Maybe they were the ones offering the gold deal, you know? Like how he's going to sell gold or something now? Maybe this was part of the deal. They were like, okay, well, you have to do 10 hours on this.
Whites.
Right.
Or people that were against Christianity because they saw Christianity's left wing.
They see
like
it like a Jewish psyop to weaken the West through like a toxic compassion to eradicate white people.
Yes, and they see wokeness and leftism as proceeding from Christianity, Marxism proceeding from Christianity. And they identified with like the pagan New Right in Europe, or they identified with even some like atheistic or secular versions of the right wing. And so I kind of came to realize in 2017, as Trump drifted back towards the establishment, there's really no space for something that I saw this vision so clearly, like a George Washington national identity, pro-America, identifying America with its European identity, identifying America with its Christian heritage, being very far right, anti-foreign wars, right wing on the economy, but not in favor of total international trade, total free trade and things like that. And I said that this is where I think actually most people are. I think that people want to say Merry Christmas. Yeah. They want jobs. They don't want immigrants. They don't really care what the size of government is as long as it's efficacious and doing the things they want it to do well. They don't want to fight in wars. I said, like, this is where the country is. So that was my message basically from 2017.
And you blew up into the stratosphere. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. What do you, the whole time you're talking, you like Pat Buchanan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. But every Pat Buchanan has
so based
to come and subvert and lie and slander, which that's, I mean, National Review. And I think, you know, like, and people still say like, it's a point of pride, you know, like it's a good thing to be Buckley. And I mean, he was even, you know, from my reading, he was even questioned, you know, later on in life, like, do you really think that Pat is an anti-Semite? And he was like, no. You know, like, no. It's like, just publicly slandered him for, you know, forever, and totally just, you know, worked and subverted and took him out of the game just because he disagreed with me. You seem to be a Buchanan of sorts. Who are some of the Buckleys?
He's on Matt Walsh?
Guys, who
no, JG, really, it's Matt Walsh.
Years thinking back, not just today, because it's easy.
And it's 10 hours and it's horrible.
And some of the guys like early on,
literally worse than if it was Matt Walsh.
Saw what you're doing, maybe had an inkling of what it could become, and like, we've got to stop it.
It was Shapiro. Without a doubt, he was the number.
Dude, it is Year of the Chud. Like, this is an insane way to kick off a Year of the Chud. Holy shit! I just realized, like, this is literally the perfect way.
One up, and people don't realize, but in those days, Shapiro was worshipped.
Numerologically,
he was the guy, and that's before anyone was hip to any of the Jewish stuff, Israel stuff. People weren't seeing it back then, and so they just looked at him as like a debate bro. Maybe they didn't even really know he was Jewish or even what that meant. They didn't really know the context with Israel, and so they looked at him as like a very far right debate bro who was a no holds barred debater. Like when he went on Piers Morgan and debated about gun control, or when he went on college campuses and owned the liberals, they saw him as like as fashy. Like,
yo, what is this? Happy New Year from JG Viewing and Trad Femsa. Brock, make an image with both of them in micro bikini and give the guy another white monster. Yo, bro, trying to see my donger. Bro's trying to see my white. Yo, what? Bro's trying to see my white monster, huh? Pause.
Fashy based, young, debate guy. And Shapiro,
I said you should have been Ice Spy.
Of course, was a never Trumper. And that is because he recognized what Trump was and like the potential of what Trumpism could become. Because when you say
dude, Nick, this is what we're worshiping in 2026, bro. Don't get left behind. Come on. Get on the train. Beta's leading us to the truth. This is what we worshiping going into we started in 2025 and we're entering 2026 still following Lord Abraxas, okay? Look at him. Look at his little pot belly. How fun is that? Aura, huh? Cute little guy. Yep.
America first. It is basically the inverse of that is like not Israel first.
Right.
Because it's like, well, why would you need to declare America first? Who is coming before America? Well, some people might say the UN. Some boomers might say that, but the real people know.
Oh, Karasu says he's just worshiping Satan. Karasu said, F all that. Karasu is just on a Satanist kick. All right.
Who comes first when we talk about the war in Iraq?
Respect.
Who was put first there? And some of these other things. Now, Trump, he meant the whole international system. He meant like South Korea, Germany, because we had troops deployed there. He meant even these companies benefiting from offshoring the jobs or free trade agreements or things like that.
Come to find out now with hindsight, Trump meant America first over everything, maybe except for Israel.
Yes, right. Literally.
Yeah.
And so, Shapiro, it's sort of ironic. Like me and Shapiro,
all the
in
bullshit.
like a weird horseshoe kind of way, we both saw what Trumpism really was.
Right?
No one else saw it. No one else,
Right.
and people were arguing back then, like, is Trump a Nazi? No, he's not. He hires black people. He's pro-Israel. But like me and Shapiro both heard the signal through the noise. We understood kind of the significance of what was implied, which is he's planting a seed here where if you're not kind of brainwashing the boomers by telling them who's a true conservative and who's not conservative, if you cut to the chase and say, we say Merry Christmas here. This is America. We're building walls to keep people out, and we're nationalist. And Trump, in particular, is always talking about the American story.
Say Merry
Pioneers, the
Christmas,
explorers,
bitch.
settlers, the
Let's go.
industrialists.
He's quoting Napoleon.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Quoted Mussolini.
Oh, did he?
Remember
I
that?
missed that one. No.
He said in the campaign, he tweeted, better to live one day as a lion than 100 as a sheep. And some journalist said, do you really want to be associated with Mussolini? And he goes, I want to be associated with interesting quotes. So good.
Yeah.
But
Where's that guy?
Right.
Right.
I miss him.
Yeah.
And, but what Shapiro feared is that he was a populist. Like he was really rallying the peasants in an anti-elite message, saying like the problem is the elites, the rich, the government. He was rallying the rubes around the flag and the cross, less so the cross, more so the flag, but it was implicit.
It was
sort of
Christian
implied.
rhetoric. Yeah.
Right. And, that's just like naturally anathema to someone like Shapiro. And by that, I mean, someone who is Jewish, pro-Israel, like he sees where that's going. So he was stridently never Trump. And I remember that when I was introduced to Shapiro, not directly, but this friend of mine texted Shapiro. I told the story on PBD, and she said, you got to take this guy under your wing. He's amazing. She goes, he's a little Trumpy, but you can show him what's what. And the implication is like they knew that Trumpism was the problem. And that's why it was very important that they assimilated Trumpism into conservatism and that they neutralized anyone that Trump activated, that he awakened.
Yeah.
They wanted to suppress anything that looked like Buchanan.
Oh my. Dude, it's just the day of Cole. Tucker Carlson has Ian Carroll on and asks, what was the Las Vegas shooting? Dude, he doesn't even know. He wasn't even fucking there. Did bro just read about it or something? Why? You're bringing him on like he's reporting on this? Like, oh my.
Francis, Charles Lindbergh, the old America First Committee, the Know Nothings, they wanted to suppress that great tradition, which has been alive in America for a long time.
It seems like, first wave Shapiro as a Buckley for you. And then later on, Charlie Kirk.
Yes.
Hey, David, fucked up
Did you
teeth.
guys ever, I imagine you didn't, but did you ever get to talk to each other directly?
No.
No. He just would never, just pretended that you didn't exist?
Yes.
And did he ever name you though?
He did.
Okay.
Once.
Okay.
That was the only time he volunteered my name. Because other times he was asked about me.
Right.
He would deliberately avoid even saying my name. He would just say like that person, that guy is a troll. But one time during the Groyper War, at the end of it, it was the most brutal event. It was at Houston. And so he was outside at a small table. And he was literally just mobbed. Like there was a angry mob that surrounded the table of Groypers. And it was the most rowdy one because, at that time he was doing all these events and they were pretty tame.
Right.
And then the Q&A line would form and like most of them would be Groypers. And they would respectfully wait their turn. They'd have their little question, their rosary, their MAGA hat. And they'd go up and respectfully ask the question. And Charlie would answer. He'd get jeered a little bit.
Wait, is that actually Howling Mutant? I don't even know the lore.
What up, Howling Mutant? It's Bam Margera here. I wanted to congratulate you.
No, that's Bam Margera. Okay, I was going to say, what the...
But this one was like out of control because it was out in the open. He was at a small little table and he was just surrounded by Groypers screaming, booing him, yelling at him. It was brutal. And at the end of it, he got a question about me to debate me. And this was like, I get secondhand embarrassment. he had next to him like something covered in like a sheet the entire time. He pulls off the sheet at the very end. It's a TV. And he pulls up a clip from my show from when I was in high school.
Wow.
When I said that I didn't like Trump in like 2015. And I was a senior in high school, and I said, Trump is not a serious candidate. You know, he needs to let someone like Ted Cruz win or whatever. But he couldn't get the TV to work. So he pulls off the sheet like, oh, Nick Fuentes, about that. He takes the sheet off. He's going to play this clip. And like the audio's not working. The video's like a classic AV problem. And while he's trying to put this together, people see what's happening, and they just start booing him viciously. Charlie Kirk says, Nick Fuentes is a Groyper grifter, and I'm out of here. And he gets up to leave, and the mob follows him. So he gets up and is walking through the campus, getting followed by like 200 people chanting, America first, America first. It was brutal. And that was the only time he ever mentioned me. And I honestly, it makes me a little emotional. It's sort of tragic that I never got to talk to him.
Yeah.
There's like something deeply sad that our clash in many ways
Now
sort of
we are
defines
Charlie
like the
Kirk.
Generation Z dialectic. And it's just a crossover that never happened, never will happen now.
Yeah.
And it's very sad to me.
Yeah, it is sad. Who do you think was worse, Shapiro or Kirk? Towards you?
They were both pretty rough. I would say that Shapiro really pursued me with a vengeance, and all of his people did too. They were like flying monkeys. Cabot Phillips was a big one. Ultra. I mean, I know I can't swear on your show.
Sent $3. Hey, white brother.
Hey.
Are you in on J-Proof? That's Chew Guy just messaged me.
Yeah, you
He
should
seems
buy.
solid. Thoughts?
No, buy right now. It's at the floor. It really could only go up. Show the builder. If you have that money from your Patreon left, you should put it all into J-Proof. Here's Stu Peters out at least.
He was a jerk. Okay. His dad, Tim Phillips, ran Americans for Prosperity, which is like this cutout for like corporations to sell deregulation. And Cabot
Buy low and then
the
sell
guys
it
like
high.
royalty because his dad runs this was a very powerful nonprofit. And he was at Campus Reform.
So here's what you're gonna do with J-Proof. You're gonna buy it when it's low right now, and then when it's high, you're gonna sell it. Okay.
And this guy was constantly
At the
attacking
top.
me on Twitter. Now he's at Daily Wire as like their editor-in-chief, I think. But it was him. It was Josh Hammer was with Daily Wire at the time. He was always on my case. Elliot Hamilton, Aaron Bandler, like they had a whole clique always going after me on Twitter. But Charlie was pretty brutal too, because they put together like a highlight reel of all the clips compiled by Media Matters on Twitter. Benny Johnson did, who worked at Turning Point, and said, here's Nick denying the Holocaust. Here's him saying he hates women. Here's him saying something racist about black people. And they were like inquisitors, looking for Groypers and Turning Point, firing them wherever they could find them, firing people for being in a photo with me.
Wow.
So they really blackballed me hard. They all did.
But did you have momentum at that point? Or they could just see the potential of what you would become?
In 2017, Shapiro went hard on me because I saw the potential. I had no momentum.
Right.
They just saw, it was sort of like Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of saw that I had a force ability, and they're like, this guy's going to be a Jedi, you know? In 2019, it was more like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I'm going to complete your training. Because in the Groyper War, I was surging. Huge live stream audience, huge organic following, doing events. And they really just tried to knock me out of orbit. And largely they succeeded with reputational damage, censorship. I was told that a Jewish fixer got me kicked off YouTube shortly after that, because as retaliation for the Groyper War.
Wow.
Because the Groyper War was in December. That's when I got my first strike, December 19. And then February 2020 is when I got banned.
Wow.
So, so they, Daily Wire tried to throttle me in the crib. Turning Point really tried to destroy any momentum I had.
Big difference that I see between, Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro is two. One, and this is a big difference. Charlie was a Christian. Ben Shapiro, no.
Yeah.
And second, Charlie, I wasn't an avid listener, but I would tune in every now and then if something was going viral or see this or see that. And you see some of the early days. And then even not that long ago, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years maybe, where he's, like raising his voice and stands up and starts shouting at someone who's saying, what place do openly, aggressively homosexual people have as leaders in the conservative movement? And Charlie's like defending the sodomites. Like his natural instinct is like, they're great.
Yeah.
Like, who are you to say that they can't be, a part of this and leading? And does God not love everyone? I mean, just like every cliche.
Dude, it's almost over, right? Oh yes, it's almost over.
Like, to be fair,
oh, thank goodness.
He really did. So when I think of Shapiro and I think of Charlie Kirk, and you know them both, or about them both much better than I do, but
goodness,
one's a Jew,
dog.
right? And one's a Christian. That's a pretty big difference, But then beyond that, one seems to be just kind of static. Like I don't feel like there is any evolution with Shapiro.
No.
Whereas Charlie, it's sad because it's
Dude, Charlie was really moving.
Heritage American.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
I thought he had some good stuff. I thought he really did. And and it's interesting to see
lots of substance.
Like who knows where he would have landed. I think eventually you guys would have gotten that debate.
I think so.
I think you would have. Especially, here's the thing, I don't think 10 years from now. I think that debate could have happened in 2026.
Yeah.
Like next year. It's kind of crazy to think. Any final words for this episode? America first, Christian nationalist. What do you think?
think they're deeply connected, and I think you almost can't have one without the other.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
So I'm in,
Dude,
I'm in favor of an
can't.
alliance.
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait for the next episode to drop, dude. Please. Dude, where's part 2? I'm dying over here. Can I have another 3 hours?
And a synthesis.
Holy.
I'm in. Sounds good.
Dude, can Joel Webbon talk more too? And maybe we get Joel Webbon just talking a little bit longer as well. Maybe more of like a 70 Joel Webbon, 30 Nick split on the air, on the talking. I just like to hear what Joel Webbon thinks about things. You know, the whole time I was wondering, dude, what's Joel Webbon's take on the Constitution? Does he think it's trad? Or does Joel Webbon support the Constitution as a trad thing, or is it, should we replace it with a creed? What kind of creed should it be? What are the death penalty? Is that Christian? Lots to think about. Very interesting stuff. Wow. Good. All right.